We will call our second official budget hearing to order. So I will ask Mr. Truesdale to do the roll call for us.
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Rawls,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Ms. Bowers.
Present.
All right, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We do have a little change to our agenda. We're going to have the Bureau of Fire go first. But before we begin, I am going to have the Office of Finance give a little bit of an overview of some technical corrections that'll be coming down in the budget.
Good evening, Council. There was a technical correction in the Department of Solicitor's Office, well, Bureau of Solicitor's Office, as well as the Department of Codes. And I have attachments here that can show you exactly with highlights that there is no actual changes to the dollar amounts, to the numbers itself, simply the position. In Solicitor's Office, the second position for the legal assistant did not show up due to programming error, as well as over in the codes division, in the codes area, their position for the electrical residential inspector did not show as well because of a coding error. Those are two new positions that's being requested for the 2025 budget. And when I went through and added those positions, the programming was missed. Therefore, I'll take full fault for this, but ultimately, I have the corrected documents here that includes those positions, the amounts, highlights, as well as the actual documents that drive the document and the budget book as proof, ultimately, to show that the numbers did not change at all. If you have any questions, I'm all ears, but just wanted to bring that to light. And be forthcoming about the technical correction, as it was not presented in your current book.
Thank you very much. And so the calculations were in there, the position just wasn't showing?
Correct.
All right. I don't have any questions. Do I have questions from any of my colleagues? All right. Thank you very much. And now, Chief Interline, whenever you are ready, please feel free.
Good evening, members of council, and I apologize for my appearance tonight. The Bureau of Fire has been operating since about 10:30 last night. We just cleared a rather large fire up at the State Hospital complex, so my appearance, I apologize for, but it's part of the job that we're here for. Protected our citizens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on their schedule, not ours. So I'll let I think Jared's going to run our PowerPoint for us. You can flip to the next slide. I think a department overview. Again, our business hours are dictated by the needs of our citizens. We provide service to the residents, visitors, and our surrounding municipalities 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year that adhere with our mission statement and then additionally our core values on the following slide.
Excuse me, Chief Enterline, can you please move the microphone closer to you?
Ooh, I've never been told I was too quiet.
Thank you.
Moving on to significant budget changes. Really not a significant budget change. 2024 budget was 9.9 million. We're at 10.5, and I'll explain a little bit more in detail where those numbers come from on the next slide. There's a 3.5% contractual salary increase for our membership, for the union membership. We did increase our overtime from 400,000 to 475,000. Building improvements is probably one of the biggest ones, from 50,000 to 500,000, and we have an interfund transfer of 500,000, and then our sewer, water, and maintenance is being transferred back to the Fire Bureau to pay. Council may remember earlier this year, you did a budget reallocation for water, sewer, and sewer maintenance so that we could take those budget numbers over. So that the 2024 requested budget was zero. So there's a pretty significant increase there. So looking at the overtime, that was obvious just because of the amount of members that we have currently deployed in the military. We have 4. We do have 1 coming back shortly. Several long-term injuries and both on-duty and personal injuries that folks are dealing with, along with the health issues that we see and FMLA with newborns and things with members having new children. The building improvements, we've had that in our 5-year plan for 5 years now. One thing is going to be a new station alerting system for all the stations that will take information directly from Dauphin County's computer-aided dispatch system to alert our members to that. That was due to a change of the county pushing us to go to one single dispatch channel as opposed to our own private dispatch channel. And then the second part of that, $500,000, is remodeling the bedroom at the fire station 2. And we believe that that'll be about a $300,000 project, and the station alerting system is about a $200,000 project. The interfund transfer, I'm actually pretty proud of this. We created a sinking fund, and council may remember over multiple years we've replaced a lot of fire apparatus. And we always come down for a large appropriation every year for those when we need to buy the apparatus. So what we're asking for is to transfer into our fire protection fund funding every year so that when we come down to and need to purchase that next piece of fire apparatus, that ask is not as great. So we're keeping that money set aside on an annual basis so that we can fund those apparatus purchases as they become needed. Moving on to our diversity. We currently have 94 personnel with 1 civilian position. We have 82 white males, 5 black males, 3 Hispanic males, 2 American Indian males, and 2 females. And moving on to vacancies, our current complement as of yesterday is 93. Our 2024 budgeted complement was 103, with 3 of those positions being unfunded. So they showed up in the budget, but there was no allocation for those additional 3, which leaves us a current vacancy of 7. I just want to point out a couple things as it pertains to vacancies. We would certainly like to have that complement of 103, 109, 110. However, with the taxing base that we have in the city with a lot of these businesses, high rises, going back for reassessments, what I don't want to do is hire firefighters that we can't afford in 10 years. We are holding our own with our current complement, and I don't want to bring anybody else on until we can figure out if we have the ability to pay for that. The one way that we can pay for that, and I advocate for this, is the hiring of a lobbyist. And I know that that's a touchy subject with council, but I'm begging for that before January, and I'll tell you why. When we go over there, I go over personally and meet with scores of representatives and senators to get additional funding. We get $5 million a year. It's been stagnant at $5 million for the last 10 years. We have not been able to get it over that 100-yard line and score a touchdown for us over the last 5-6 years that I've been going over there. And it really comes down to the people that know the people to get the money in the budget for us. And I believe that having that lobbyist work for us and using it from the fire department standpoint will be beneficial to every citizen, because if we get that extra 2 or 3 million that we're asking for, that will allow us to increase that budgeted complement and better protect our citizens. So I think there's a direct correlation to that, and I think there's a ultimate payoff that protects our citizens in a much better way. And I've been in front of you many times over the last 10 years about the diminished number of volunteers that we have coming in to assist us in the city. Last night, they did a tremendous job. We had a tremendous outpouring of support from our mutual aid partners. First time that in my 30 years here that we've used a tanker task force, which is unheard of in the city. But we had a lot of mutual aid folks come in. Yesterday was an anomaly compared to what it would be at Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when I only have 16 firemen on the street, and I may only get 2 or 3 from each of those companies coming. So that it is an imperative that we work to get that number increased from the Commonwealth to assist us. That gives us a positive revenue stream coming in that we can rely on year after year, and I don't have to worry about 3 or 4 or 5 years from now where we have to lay firefighters off, because that's not what we're in the business to do. We need them, and I believe that lobbyist would be a significant benefit for the Fire Bureau. The budget, as you well know, talks start in January with the governor, and it would be great to be in there. And I can tell you through the Susquehanna Area Regional Airport Authority, which I'm a chairman of the operations committee, we just hired a lobbying firm, and they're already boots on the ground identifying those sources of income to help support the airport and the airport operations. It's so important for us, for the fire department standpoint, and I would really love to have those guys on board that I can meet with and go and be that spokesperson alongside going into those offices, the people that know how to get us at those fundings. Ideally, we'd have, as I said, more staffing on the street. And it also, looking at statistics, community relations, and things like that, I have nobody. So it is the 4 of us and 1 person in the office. So our office complement is essentially 5. I do have 1 fire inspector. And those numbers, again, with that additional funding from the state, if we can garner that, will help us to better serve the citizens with other opportunities that we have. Moving on, just wanted to highlight retirements. We had 6 retirements, thus the vacancies. And we do know we have 1 retirement coming in January that was just announced on Monday. Moving on to grants. We currently have a Dauphin County gaming grant that we're working through for $250,000. It's a floor project at both of the fire stations, Station 1 and Station 2. In 2024, we were awarded the 2023-24 Fire Commissioner grant for $15,000. We purchased new tools and equipment for the new apparatus that we purchased. We got a $5,000 Norfolk Southern Safety First grant, and we're designing timers specifically for our elderly and the elderly high-rises. One of the things that we look at our statistics when we have a chance to do that is we do a lot of unattended cooking calls in those elderly high-rise buildings, and if we can give them a timer to set that will wake them up after, say, 5 or 10 minutes, it will help us and maybe diminish those number of false alarms that we're going to those particular properties. CDBG funding, we were given $500,000 earlier this year. Thus far, we've purchased atmospheric air monitors that were in need of replacement, new hydraulic tools and equipment for new apparatus. We just received 1,000 smoke alarms that we install throughout the city free of charge. We're doing some safety upgrades to our Reserve Tower 1. We're waiting on parts for that to begin. That's a $73,000 project. Updates to the diesel exhaust systems at all the stations. That's about a $87,000 project. And the replacement of the bay doors at fire stations number 1 and 2. And as council will remember, we were allocated funding to replace the front doors 2 years ago. That project was completed, and this will be the final phase of putting new doors on to replace about 35-year-old doors on the fire stations. We are currently working with the Grants Department on an Assistance to Firefighters grant for firefighter physicals and cancer screening, and we applied for and will likely be awarded $15,000 from the State Fire Commissioner's Office again next year, and we're going to dedicate that money to firefighter physicals. Again, giving back to those that serve our community day in and day out. Moving on to ARPA projects, the replacement of the Fire Bureau radios, which was awarded. Those radios were purchased, received, the invoice was paid, and nearly all those radios are currently in service in apparatus and issued to each individual firefighter. New positions, again, we have no new positions in the 2025 budget. I certainly would love to tell you in 2026 that we're going to hire additional personnel. We will begin in January hiring to replace those 6 that we lost through retirements in 2024. Don't think I had any notes on that, no. Year-to-date budget. Does our current year-to-date budget align with our 2025 ASCO? We'll discuss that on the next couple of slides. Again, looking at the overtime, I think I've told council this the last at least 8 years. When we look at the year-to-date expended for 2024 is $2 million essentially on a $475,000 budget. And a lot of that overtime is in two areas. Number one, we had those unexpected deployments of 4 personnel to active duty military, which took 4 folks out. We have 2 long-term injuries that we're dealing with. But more importantly, the deployment of Pennsylvania Task Force 1 really manipulates those numbers up and down throughout the year. We could certainly budget and put in there $1.2 million, but it would make the budget lopsided. So we feel confident budgeting $475, come back to City Council after those deployments and adjust revenue and expenses accordingly with the money that we'll be receiving back from the federal government. Severance pay was significantly higher this year because of the 6 retirees. We still feel confident on $85,000. Now, if we get another 6 to retire, we will have to do some reallocation. Understand, though, that when we have those employees with multiple years of service, those 20-plus year veterans, that will also cut down on the salaries and wages because the new folks coming in will be at a lower salary and rate because they're not here 20-plus years. The Medicare Premium Part B, we're budgeting at $185. We were only budgeting it at $85. There were a lot of members in the Fire Bureau, retired members and their wives that are now reaching that benefit age, and contractually we were obligated to pay their Medicare Part B premium for them in retirement once they reach that age. Lost Time Med, again, that was one that we asked for a reallocation. I feel confident that $300,000 is going to cover it, and I hope that we'll be a little bit below that. Again, we had 2 significant injuries that we were dealing with this past year, and hopefully we will get those resolved, with requiring a lot of specialty visits with just a plethora of crazy doctors, quite honestly. And then the fire pension plan, that obviously is calculated by the Commonwealth at $1.1 million this year. And the majority of that is actually reimbursed to the city from the Commonwealth for the pension plan through the foreign fire tax and other means. Moving on to the next slide. Tools and hardware, we had, and I'll lump these all together, tools, hardware, vehicle parts, and supplies. Those were all higher this year because of the purchase of the new apparatus. We had a lot of tools and equipment that we wanted to buy. We used to, in the Fire Bureau, have to transfer equipment from one to the other anytime a frontline rig went out of service. Excuse me, we are now have those rigs fully stocked so that if we have a call like we did last night where we need multiple reserve apparatus, we still have enough of tools and equipment to effectively take care of the community. So those were a couple of areas where we were overspent. And then building improvements, obviously we already talked about that on the first slide, the jump in that. And then the operations equipment, that went from $989, which also included those radios that we purchased, down to $0 because we're not purchasing a fire apparatus in 2025. Roles exceeding 2% increases is just the management chiefs to keep management members in alignment with the bargaining unit increases, which were 3.5 and 3.75%, and to make sure that that position of deputy chief remains a fairly lucrative one for the member to come out of a 4-day work week with 4 days off every week to a 5-day work week with 2 days off every week. And also do away with the overtime. So as I said, our members have been on scene last night since 10 o'clock, and I was there right alongside of them. So that's kind of what you get from the management chief's position. It gets wearing, and I think that's what we're kind of showing there with the burnout building. Sometimes you get burnout like we are here tonight after a long 24 hours. Moving on to departmental highlights. We're going to continue with our current staffing model and response model for effective response, continue to all the training programs. You remember we hired a deputy chief of training to increase the training and the availability of training and quality training and consistent training across all 4 of our platoons. Implement a new records management system, which we've been working on for about the last 6 months. We'll have that up and running January 31st onto a new system, and we'll be switching from the NIFRS system into NERIS, which is a new federal requirement by the end of next year. We're going to explore some further fire inspection opportunities, both internally and externally. So we may be coming to council midway through the year with a external self-inspection program. And we're going to be looking at some opportunity for that that will not only benefit the Fire Bureau from a inspection standpoint, but it will also benefit codes as well. We're going to finalize those capital projects that we talked about, and we're going to continue our emphasis on community engagement with smoke alarm installations, carbon monoxide alarm installations, street fairs, block parties, one of our favorite National Night Out, station tours, and fire prevention activities. And I did have some, and I apologize, again, I was in the office like literally maybe 10 minutes today. We did approximately 200 smoke alarm installations in 2025 so far. And I know there's several scheduled this weekend. 2024, what did I say? It's getting late. Thank you, Councilman. So just looking at how we, how we look at ourselves, we look at NFPA 1710 staffing, which is 6 minutes. It's actually it's typically in the standard written in seconds. So not to confuse anyone, we're looking at minutes. And we look at this, so 92% of the incidents, and you'll see it's only 84, and that's the structure fire responses. We meet, the goal is 90% of the time. We're exceeding that at 92% of the time. And quite frankly, when we look at that, we do have times when we're dispatched for a structure fire where it's not a structure fire, and the coding for that doesn't change. And so we only end up with 3 firefighters showing up on that, where we're looking for that 6 complement. And that's where sometimes those numbers get skewed. We're well within the national average of 90%. So we're happy with that. When we look at the overall calls, and this is inside the city of Harrisburg, current as of, I think it was the 8th of December, 2,762 calls inside of the city of Harrisburg. And of those, these are, whether we go out the door with 1 piece of apparatus or 4 pieces of apparatus, or it's a first alarm structure fire, we take everything. This includes all those where we're going lights and siren, or if we're just driving normal street speed, what we call class 3 response. So even at that, we're meeting the goal of that 6-minute response time 88% of the time. So we're still giving the citizens a pretty good response time as it pertains to even non-emergency responses, which the NFPA does not recognize in the standard.
Standard still 90% though?
Yes, 90%, yep, for emergency incidents. And that's why that's filtered out to include the non-emergency incidents. So those that would be dispatched by the county as a non-emergency call. I just wanted to show where we were, even if we factor those into it.
Gotcha.
And then just looking at the call overview, right now we're at 3,194 incidents. So that includes all those mutual aid calls that we do. And the prior year we were at, 3,263 incidents year to date, and prior year was 3,110. So we did have a significant increase over that 2-day period where we were dealing with the tornado. So that was a little bit of an increase, and we had another bad storm came through that peaked our numbers as well. So, statistics only tell the story they want you to tell, and so you can look and say, oh my goodness, you're doing more work. What are you guys doing? Really, I think you look at 2 or 3 separate days accounts for the majority of those increases in incidents. Not to say that our guys aren't doing work, though. We're doing a ton of work. Looking at training, total student hours is what we like to look at, is 14,674 hours. You'll see that spike in May, and that spike in May is when we log all the hours for our new employees that are going through the fire academy and things like that. So that's why you see the spike in May. We do our ARC program where they get all kinds of additional training to make them street ready. And then our performance matrix, it kind of takes us back to the prior 3 pages, but we strive to meet those national consensus standards to include NFPA 1710 on response time and staffing for incidents. looking at staffing, the response time, again, to emergency incidents. And then the ISO, which we've talked to council many times about, that includes staffing, training for firefighters, the travel distance and number of engine and truck companies within the city, our hydrants, which we've had a really good working relationship with Capital Region Water and the water crew, making sure that those hydrants get inspected on an annual basis, which wasn't happening when I first came down here 10 years ago. And that number's really increased, and we're excited to see how that affects our ISO the next time that comes up next year, I believe. Again, it's also looking at tools and equipment, and then the testing of pumps and aerials and ladders. And with that, we will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I think that was a pretty thorough presentation, so thank you for that. I don't have any questions. I will start with questions from my colleagues, starting with Public Safety Chair down there, Councilman Jones.
Vice President Green, thank you. Excuse me. I just have, I agree, I think this was a well laid out PowerPoint. But the question I have is around the $500,000 spend and for the bathroom and the bedroom.
Okay.
So can you explain to me or to the public that spend is? We're not talking about one bedroom, right?
Well, when we say one bedroom, currently all of our firefighters sleep next to each other in an open bedroom environment. So, if I may, the way the council desks are laid out, that is how my firefighters sleep in the fire station. So what we want to do, and we have a large open area in the middle of that. So this is a very large room with is there 22 Murphy beds, I believe it is. We'd like to get rid of those Murphy beds and replace them with 22, I believe it is, and replace those with individual, a dorm-style sleeping facility for privacy.
Got you. No further questions.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. Just for context in the budget, when we speak of apparatus, do we mean trucks? Do we mean air units? What specifically are we referring to?
So when we talk apparatus, that could be anything in our fleet. So that could be anything from a tractor-drawn aerial to a boat. So that is our apparatus
Gotcha.
And rolling stock.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ross?
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. It was a great presentation. Didn't leave me with any questions. All of mine were answered in the presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. President Bowers?
Thank you. Good evening. I don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you, Vice President Green. Thank you, Chief Ederline, and for your team for being here. And thank you especially for the service that you provide and for saving lives in our community every day. And thank you for being here because I know you've been out all night, so you guys look pretty good. I was just gonna ask about the smoke detectors, the 200 smoke detectors that you're putting in, I guess, various homes in the city. Are they the updated ones, the sealed smoke alarms?
Yes, so about, I want to say 6-8 years ago when they first came out, we made it a policy that we will no longer install any smoke alarm that requires a battery to be changed. So everything that we buy is a 10-year lithium battery smoke alarm, yes.
Okay, great, because I think HUD just came out with a requirement for everyone to have a 10-year sealed smoke alarm in each unit, so.
Yeah, not to beat the dead horse, but I support that wholeheartedly, and I don't believe that any retail outlet should carry anything that requires a replacement of a battery anymore. Just the technology that is there, it's proven, and when we install that, we have confidence that at least for the next 8 to 10 years that smoke alarm is going to protect that resident that we just installed for. So, and of those 200 homes, we typically install about 3 to 4 smoke detectors. So that's, we're looking at 1,200 smoke detectors we go through every year to protect our citizens.
How many smoke detectors would you install in a one-bedroom apartment?
So depending on the layout, depending on the layout, and if it's an apartment, it probably would be required to have a fire alarm system as opposed to single-station smoke alarms.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels? All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight and for your presentation, of course, for all the work that you do. Now, go get some rest.
Well, we thank, just on a parting thought, to leave on a high note, we appreciate council's commitment to the Fire Bureau. Without you and without our firefighters, we would not be able to properly serve and protect the citizens. And every year that I've come down here, council has been gracious with the budget. And you see that as the dollars and cents. We get to see that from the reactions of the citizens when we're assisting them at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we appreciate it. Thanks for your support.
Moving on with our agenda, the next order of business will be the budget for the Bureau of Police.
It'd be a little easier, yeah, this would be a little easier to work, it's a regular PowerPoint. What's that? Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen. Whenever you're ready, if you could just introduce yourselves, give an overview of your department, and then whatever presentation you have, feel free to get started.
All right, bear with me for 1 minute, and I have handouts, and then, instead of some handouts, I mean, most of it is a PowerPoint that we presented you earlier, pay justifications, which we got a little tied up today, which I didn't get a chance to get out. Job description for the Support and Outreach Coordinator, and then some recruiting posters and stuff in there as well. I have some poker chips that have the, obviously, our logo on them, and then on the back side has the QR code for the recruiting. It's in there. Yep. Bear with me for 1 minute.
City council members, just like the fire department, we've been out ever since Sunday night because we had a homicide. My guys have been out tracking down the person who shot and killed somebody on Sunday night. And if you saw the news earlier, it all came to a head today where we were engaged in a shootout down on Cameron Street in the city of Harrisburg. So he was apprehended. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries. So my guys have been out ever since Sunday, most of them, trying to apprehend this person. And it's all for the protection of the citizens of our great city. You ready?
Good evening. I'm Deputy Chief Young. Obviously, the Commissioner's here with me. We have Captain Martin, who's in charge of our Uniform Patrol Division. Captain McGarity, seated right behind me, he's in charge of the Technical Services Division.
DC
Yeah.
Young, can you pull your,
Yeah.
Yep.
All the paperwork I have in front of me. Sorry. Captain Whelan, sitting in the back row, he's in charge of our Criminal Investigation Division. And I think everybody knows Captain Winder. We were down here last night for the Humane Society contract. So So the first slide, obviously, this is our proposal. What you see on the slide right now is the org chart for the Bureau of Police. Not to get too deep into it, but it is headed by the police commissioner, followed by myself, and then 4 captains. You see the various divisions. This org chart is from last year. What we do is we revisit this, and we'll redo this again next month to add, to make the adjustments that we made throughout the year. Next slide. You'll see the total budget. So if we do a comparison between 2024 and 2025, last year's budget was $21,424,531.74. This year's budget is $20,479,054.42, which is a total reduction in our budget of $945,477.32, or 4.4%. All right, next slide, you'll see that the departmental diversity. This is how the department's laid out. We have currently 126 males, 35 females, and then you'll see the racial complement. 125 are white, 23 are African American, 10 Hispanic, and then 3 Asian. We also have on this slide the languages spoken, read, or understood by the police department. We can also add on there, which I found out today, we have someone that speaks French, someone that speaks Guy, and somebody who speaks Twi. I know I mispronounced that. Twa. So, sorry about that. But yeah, so we can add those 3 to the list as well. All right, next slide. Yep. Current position totals. You'll see it on the slide up there, the budgeted numbers on your left-hand side. We have a total of 194 budgeted positions. Of those positions, which you see up there, we have a total of 161 which are currently filled, leaving us 33 vacancies. The biggest vacancy, obviously, is the patrol officer spot, which I'll get into a little later. And then I will tell you that December, we tried to fill the parking enforcement spots, did some interviews. We offered 2 positions. They declined. So that leaves us back to.
That was in-house, right?
Well, it went through the in-house phase. So it was posted internally. There were no bidders on that. And then what we did is after that process, we posted externally, is where we got applicants for that. So we had 2 people that actually we offered jobs to. They turned those jobs down. So we'll start that whole process again in January. And then the Director of Community Relations, after a couple interviews, we were able to fill that spot. That individual starts on December 23rd. All right, again, total vacancies. This year was particularly challenging for all divisions, with forced overtime for officers, supervisors, and uniform patrol to cover the districts. We had officers working 7 days a week for coverage, and then CSAs were working 6 days a week to attend the community events. What you see on the slide there, it goes through the first quarter of 2025. We know in January that we have 2 detectives and 1 patrol officer retiring. We know in February we have another sergeant retiring, which creates additional vacancies on that list as well. The numbers on the graph are known at the time of currently right now. What it doesn't include, and where we have a big problem, is the people with less than 5 years leaving the department for various reasons. I can tell you in 2022, we had 4. In 2023, we had 5. And in 2024, this year alone, we had 8. So they're the ones that are unaccounted for on that list. And it's for various reasons why they leave. Some of it's money. Some of it would be the shift option that we run right now, which we'll be exploring that. But we are still losing the people with less than 5 years experience. All things considered, if you look at the bottom, it says 18 additional officers and detectives could retire in 2025 after 20 years completion of service. So that's the one that if everybody with 20 years of service decided to retire, there would be 18 additional spots on the budget. Staffing levels are critically low at this time. So we'll be looking going into 2025 at some reorganization of the Bureau to fill those basic needs. So we'll be looking at that. We're going to explore some different staffing options for each division to align, which aligns with the City of Harrisburg and the FOP contract. On a positive note, the Commissioner, we made, after the last hiring process, he made conditional offers to 4 people. 3 out of 4 passed the remaining tests, and then they'll be in the Hack Police Academy in January. Again, personnel vacancies, which we covered. We had 5 retirements last year. We covered the 8 resignations, and then currently the 4 in the in-house. In the proposed 2025 budget, again, these are the vacancies, which we covered on the slide: 2 lieutenants, 1 sergeant, 2 detectives, 1 forensics officer, and 23 officers. What we did, knowing that we're not going to be able to fill those positions in 2025, or not all of them, what we did to have a little fiscal responsibility is for the 2 lieutenant spots, we half funded those, which was a savings of $98,301.74. The 1 sergeant spot that's currently open right now was half funded, $46,167.70 savings. 2 detective spots, knowing that we're going to pick up 2 detective positions in January, and we won't be able to fill 4 next year. We zeroed those out. Savings on that was $175,011.12. 9 officers, knowing that we can't put any additional officers in the academy until July. We half funded those, which is a saving of $271,039.95. And then we zero funded 2 of the police officer spots, which is $120,462.20 savings. Total savings on that was $710,982.71, and that doesn't include FICA. Again, next slide, and these are basically off the questions that you had asked. So the parking enforcement position 1, again, we extended 2 offers, and that'll take place. We'll start that again back in January, we'll start that in January 2025. I spoke about the 10 spots, which was asked for the police officer trainees. Obviously the police side of hiring for the city is not the same as others. We can't run an internal bid process such as ASME does to fill these vacancies. We're required by civil service and MOPEC rules to run through the plethora of tests that we have to go through. So, I mean, it's a little different to become a police officer and probably even a firefighter than it would be to become, say, a parking enforcement officer. And then again, the last one on the previous screen was the Director of Community Relations and Engagement, and that individual will start on December 23rd. Recruiting and promotions. The next test, our current testing cycle opened up in November for a July 2025 hiring class. Physical fitness and a written test will be administered on February 23rd. What we do is on each cycle is we'll collect names and emails so we can reach out to people when the testing cycle opens. And what we had when we started, or before this testing cycle actually opened, is we had 193 individuals who requested to receive notification of the testing cycle. Since it opened, we've had 33 that have completed the short application for the testing. What we're in the process of trying to explore, and this isn't something new, but we're trying to revisit it, different recruiting options such as laterals, separate Act 120 list, and then preference points for residents or city employees. So they're the things we'll be looking at. In order to accomplish a lot of that, what we got to do is we got to reduce civil service rules and city ordinances to make that happen. Grant-funded positions. We have 3 grant-funded positions, which you see up there, PCCD, the VIP grant through the end of 2025 will cover the support and outreach coordinator at $55,000, and then the GVI project manager at $65,000. The LLES grant is good through the end of 2025, and that's $45,000 for the evidence custodian. Total reimbursement of salaries through the grants is $165,000. What you see on this budget year comparison, salaries and wages, is 414000 is basically the 3-year comparison of salaries as well as a percentage increase. In the 2025 proposed budget, you'll see, 2025 proposed budget, you'll see the salary is $13,929,460, which is a 3.8% increase from 2024. And I'll explain to you how that worked. Next slide. All right, so we talked about, in the 2024 budget, the support and outreach coordinator was listed as a part-time position. We are proposing to make that a full-time position in 2025. And again, the salary is fully covered by the grant. Pay raises, so contractual, the FOP is a 3.5% pay raise, and then the ASME employees are a 3% pay raise. What we're proposing would be a 4% pay raise for those individuals that you see on the screen, Commissioner, myself, 4 captains, special assistant to the Commissioner, and the police substation manager. The main reason for at least the first 6 is the FOP contract is a 3.5% to keep those jobs or these jobs where people wish to do those and keep them filled is if we stay in line with the FOP contract, that sort of kind of keeps the gap, so to speak, about the same.
So to be clear, you're talking about the 4% proposed raises for Commissioner, you, 4 captains, special assistant to the Commissioner, and the substation manager.
So yes, I explained the first 6, so that, or sorry, it'd be the Commissioner, myself, and 4 captains. Is where that FOP contract is a 3.5% pay raise. That's where that 4% pay raise is to maintain that gap.
Okay. Continue.
All right. Of course, you heard Chief Enterline and the Commissioner say, I mean, when something happens in the city, it was an election year. A lot of times what you'll end up seeing would be we're there regardless if we're on call or not. What we do is once every 6 weeks, we're on a on-call basis, so we become the person that has to make the decisions for the city when they come in, or at least for the police department when they come in. So during that on-call week, basically we're working for 2 weeks straight. We're not entitled to any overtime, and I don't think anybody's really complaining about it, but we're not entitled to any overtime. So that takes its toll again on the officers or the command staff individuals as well as their families. So I can tell you that at least one of us have small children, not myself, but we have smaller children, and we have to sort of kind of those events that we would normally be able to attend, being on call, that stuff gets pushed aside so that we're able to make ourselves available and respond as needed. For the special assistant to the Commissioner, a reason for the 4% pay increase would be the main reason would be that this person controls the budget. They handle everything budgetary for us, purchases, they track the expenditures, they track anything budget related, and this is how we get to the budget that we come up. This person's very important in this whole process. I can tell you that this is the first time that I've gone through it. It was very challenging for me, and they have a grip on what we're doing. The next person would be the police substation manager, and a lot of these positions, what you're going to see is we had gaps or we had jobs that need filled, and then what we were able to do is look at the people in these positions and then basically load these duties on top of it. So, and they took them willingly, so the police substation manager, the additional duties we added to this person was to create, to this position was to create, submit, and track divisional purchase request, develop, use systems for tracking divisional expenditures. They track the animal control purchases. They assist in event coordination, including designing and distributing digital printouts. They post on the community service Facebook page. They manage special projects for the community services division. And then they assist with special events in person after hours. They assist with the collecting and management of statistical data. So these people, they put in a lot of time over and above their normal hours. So they're here, and they're available all the time. On the slide right now, you'll see these proposed pay increases. We would like to move up the accreditation manager, the court liaison, special events coordinator, crime analyst, there's 2 of them, up to $70,000, and the confidential secretary to the deputy chief to $55,000. Again, and we'll get into all the extra duties that they do. And we can start with the accreditation manager. I can tell you that on top of being the accreditation manager and all those duties assigned to that particular spot. We've also lumped in there, they act as the Bureau's report management system manager in the absence of the current one that we have. She's been out for the last 6 months, so we've had her fill in, and she's done a wonderful, she did that before, but she filled in there. She acts as a liaison between the City of Harrisburg IT Department and the Bureau for any IT-related problems. She designs and completes the Bureau's annual and quarterly report, so the documents that we receive and post, she's the one that writes those. She manages our self-reporting system. She's a system administrator for Cobra and Super Cobra. She manages Crime Watch posts. She manages the Bureau's crime mapping through Crime Watch. She does all the UCR and NIBR submissions, and the importance of that would be that reduces insurances costs, and then it opens us up to where we can obtain more grants. We're required now to run a multi-factor authentication, so she's the police department's point on that. We had to switch non-traffic forms. She's the point on that. She's available, again, all the time for calls, emails, to come in whenever needed. This job, or this position, could easily be separated into 3 current positions. I went on ZipRecruiter, and I will tell you the average salary of a police accreditation manager is $80,629. Special events and court liaison special events, in addition to all the other court-related duties and invoicing and everything else that she does. What she took on was she manages, or what this position now is manages the recruitment of police officers for the Bureau, creates the digital applications, flyers, social media articles, advertisements, sources the applications for advertising, recruiting, job sites, actively engages and follows up with the interested applicants, manages the applications to include collection of forms and test scheduling. She'll come in when we test and manage all that stuff. Manages the physical agility test, the written exam. She has the ability, or she received training, and she's an official notary through the Commonwealth. This position now could be 4 different positions. And again, we use ZipRecruiter, a court liaison. If we were looking for one of that nationwide, the average salary is $76,879. Here locally in Harrisburg would be $75,893. For the special events, coordinator would be 51 across each, recruiter would be 51 across each, and then a notary would be 64 nationwide, and then 63. And again, I mean, she spends a lot of time, when we hit recruiting cycles, she spends a lot of time answering emails, attending to phone calls, in addition to what she usually do. I can tell you right now it's court week, and she's constantly receiving emails and phone calls from the district attorney's office. The 2 crime analysts, what we did, CID currently has 1 crime analyst. This individual, she came to us through PASIC 12 years ago and brought all of her connections with her. When she came here, she took a pay cut. And in talking to her, I think if you talk to her, she really likes what she's doing. But she did take a pay cut to come here. And she's built out of CID, and I'll give you one instance. Recently we had a child rape. She was able to narrow that down and put us to where we needed to go in order to find the person and follow through with that investigation. She's done a very good job, built a lot of additional resources and contacts, which help with the investigations currently going on in CID. She also is attached into the LPRs, and when somebody sends an email, what she'll end up doing is she'll run that person and then give us all the information if we're looking for a particular individual for a crime. So she's very good at what she does. From July 2023 to 2024, she assisted in 1,098 cases with multiple people. With her skill set, a crime analyst in central Pennsylvania could make easily $70,000. All right, the second one, crime analyst, and she's really not, she's titled as a crime analyst because that's what she was hired underneath of. She has taken on a plethora of other duties. She still does a crime analyst thing, and she was mainly hired for the community service division for the information that runs through the school district and some other places. Since then, she has taken on, utilizes the computer, the databases and records management system, conduct research for statistical analysis, involved in all aspects of police grants. We have three grants. We have 4 grants, but 3 of the grants she actually takes care of. And if it wasn't for her, we would, in the scheme of things, the police grants aren't a major project for the city. So in order to make that process move a little faster for us, in order to get those grants moving, she has taken that on, and she's become the lead on all the grants that we have. So she makes recommendations for investigative, summarizes, and I gave you this in the packet of stuff that was just handed out. So if you wanted to follow along, summarizes, maintains confidentiality, adheres to applicable laws, appears in court as an expert witness, prepares informational reports for public release, assists the public information officer in the oversight of and management of postings, information, provides oversight of specialized databases, assists in reporting the NIBRS UCR data, so she's the backup person to that. She oversees management of all police grants. She manages the financial and ancillary records pertaining to police grants, provides statistical data. Again, this person came to us through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children 8 years ago. She took a pay cut to be here. So she's been heavily involved since the inception of the GVI strategy. She's the one that actually was able to secure the grant, do all the grant paperwork, and then get that moving to where it is currently. She made all the contacts with the York City Police Department, York City DA, Philadelphia, National Network for Safe Communities. She's coordinated through all the different law enforcement and court areas. She's secured an MOU from Dauphin County Probation for assistance with GVI strategy and the implementation for software. She's involved in developing and submitting formal applications for budgets for PCCD. She drafted another MOA for gang-related software. She handles all reporting requirements to PCCD for the grants, handles clery requests, and then she manages social media sites for CSD and HPD. She's available, again, after hours, weekends. You give her a call. What we did, again, looked at this. The average grant manager in the city of Pennsylvania is $65,819. The average in Harrisburg would be $77,073. And then again, the crime analyst with her specific skill set would range about $70,000. The last one you see up there is a confidential secretary to the deputy chief. We were proposing to raise that to $55,000. In addition to the other duties, or the duties she was hired for, what we did is the additional duties that she's taken on would be the Narcan coordinator. She's coordinated the ordering and tracking maintenance of Narcan, report of Narcan to the Bureau and outside agencies, researches all the RMS, drug overdoses for entering into Odin. We're required to enter those deaths into the state system. Last year alone, there were 119. She researches and tracks LCB complaints, 10 roll calls, conducts searches in reference to normal inquiries. She manages several different rosters. She monitors the autopsy reports for overdoses and then distributes Narcans. Narcan for work hours. I will tell you, we also looked across the city budget on this one. The city recently hired one department in the city recently hired an individual with similar job description at about $60,000. So what we did was we took that comparison as well. Again, any one of these individuals, if we leave them, are very critical to what we do. All right, Social Security, you'll see there's a decrease in Social Security, $37,126.84, and that's due mainly to the reduced employees of the open vacant spots. The police pension plan, I'll give you the Brian McCutcheon answer, because somebody asked why that went down, and I couldn't tell you exactly. So, maybe he can get up and talk to us.
Sure.
But no, his explanation was was for the police pension plan, the city's minimal municipal obligation to the pension significantly decreased, which you see on the screen. There are various actuary calculation factors determined by a professional actuary firm, Conrad Siegel, go into the calculation worksheet provided by the actuary, including normal cost rate percentages, any amortization requirements, and any determined credits that go against the total financial requirements. The actuary also looks at the resulting investment return performance of the pension plan. For 2025, the MMO, the amortization fell below 1.6 million, and the credit related to negative unfunded liability increased to 494,237, resulting in that reduction. That is a number that we don't set, but I know somebody had asked that in one of the. That's the best answer I got. Brian is present today. Maybe he can elaborate a little better than what I can. But
The short answer is that when the police pension plan is doing good, when the police pension plan okay. When the police pension plan is doing well, that means that the city does have to put money in there, as much money, but when it goes below a certain level, then the city has to put money in there. Is that correct, Brian?
That's a big factor.
Yes. Nothing to do with providers?
sorry, Brian.
No. I was kind of wondering if you would refer to me. Good evening, everybody. Brian McCutcheon, Accounting Manager, Bureau of Financial Management. Deputy Chief, you said that very well.
You wrote it.
Basically, for the prior year MMO, there was a bigger amortization requirement required. It was 1.6 million. It's not. It's zero for next year. And then last year there was a credit that related to and this is a tougher one, the unfunded, when it's a negative liability, that's like saying it's an asset. So there was no credit last year, but there's a credit for next year. So when you combine the two, the 1.6 and the almost $500,000 credit, that reduces the amount of obligation the city has to make for the police pension plan. Those two main factors. What we do, we work out the payroll. The MMO for next year is always based on what the city projects for its payroll for current year, 2024. So we calculate that, but the actuary sends us a worksheet and works in all those nuanced type factors that are in the actuarial world, not so much on our end. But you just run the numbers through that, and then that's what determines the ultimate MMO. And, if anybody's not clear, I'll be happy to rephrase it if need be.
Right, yeah. That's why I went to him. All right. Next slide, yep, so that slide. So we also had in the 2025 budget, there was a total saving of $216,500. Basically, the contractor, the MOA for a pilot program with the school crossing guards ended in June, and the contract was not renewed, which the crossing guards went from the police department back to the school district. So we don't have that funding source or have to worry about that funding the school district, the crossing guards, and then the GBI coordinator. Obviously, that was converted from a part-time to a full-time position into the budget. So that took it out of the temporary.
That's grant funded, correct?
The GVI coordinator's grant fund, yes.
And real fast, not to cut you off about the crossing and the school guards. I just want to make sure, be clear about this. You know, there's always been an issue with RSOs in the schools, and this is not Harrisburg Police Department that's going into the school district, correct?
Correct.
Just making sure. That's it.
May I ask what you mean by that? This is not Harrisburg.
Because people thought that they would have to come in front of council, and I was like, I don't even think that these are our officers. This is something that the school district is.
The new police force.
Yes, that they're doing.
Yes. The school district is.
Turn your mic on, sir.
I'm sorry, Madam President. But the school district is funding their own force. I think they're starting off with 4 officers and 30-something guards.
Yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
it's not.
Yeah, I was just making sure that it wasn't Harrisburg.
It's not Harrisburg Police.
All right.
The only thing that we'll have to do with them is to train them and different things like that, and help them.
That's something you
in any
guys are
way.
going to participate in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and that's basically it.
All right, up on the screen, we covered the temporary. The next one, I'll take a couple minutes, I'm gonna explain this one. You'll see it's not listed as 900,000 in 2024 budget. This increased to 1.1 million. What this budget line does is used to pay for police external employment. What you're not seeing is the revenue side of this, and the simple explanation, if you will call it, is that if we go out and work external employment, the invoice gets sent by our court liaison special events coordinator to the vendor who we work for, and that could be, you name it, they could be doing riverfront details that we have an outside vendor. On the other side of that is I won't get paid if I'm working one of those external employments until the vendor pays the city. So that budget line should never really fluctuate too much. Obviously, we're going to show the expenditure side, but the revenue side should go up as well. In addition to that, the city's also going to make a 5% for me showing up in a uniform, or 20% for me showing up in a uniform, and we have equipment associated with it. So the city's actually making money off of that one. This budget line is, again, used for the expenditures. Services, you'll see the increase to the advertising. What we did with that was we added some money for law enforcement jobs. It went from 21 to 3,000. We added another $4,000 for community service events from CSD. So the $200 increase for Brenda over in duplication. And then one of our biggest things we found this year, what we were upside down on, was postage. And that's basically as a result of Act 4 of 2022, which is where we got to send DNA samples out for testing for every missing person. What we were doing is we were getting an average monthly bill of $700 from NMS Labs. So obviously, the $2,000 wasn't going to fund that properly. So that's why you see the overage on that, or the increase for 2025. UPS and FedEx increases as well. The maintenance service contract, just minor increases for annual increases. The biggest one on that, we repositioned Cody Pathfinder from the software portion of the budget and put it into here. That's why you see an increase in that. We added a line in here for neighborhood dispute settlement, mediation services, for drone support and maintenance, and then Cellbrite. Cellbrite, we got through a grant, which we'll end up picking that tab up hopefully in 2026, but we have to, in case it doesn't go because the grant was extended, in case it doesn't apply, we have to make sure we have money budgeted for that. We also removed 32,000 from the budget for body worn cameras, which that'll be picked up through the LLES grant, through PCCD. You'll see an overall increase of 15,520 on that, and again, the main reason for that would be the repositioning of Cody into this budget line. Services again, training increased. The main reason for that is this is a year, or 2025 would be the year where we got to do CPR and first aid training for the Bureau. There was $6,000 in there. Promotional testing, which we'll be getting into in July, roundabout. We looked at 2023, we paid $8,500 for promotional testing. So what we did was we budgeted $10,000 for that. Crime analyst training went up from $4,000 to $11,100. And then with the pickup of Cellbrite, what we did was we added a training in there for tower dumps and area searches for the cell phone data obtained, which is $2,650, and then drone operator license of $175. Contracted services, the main increase on that would have been the city's portion of the co-responder salaries. Went up in that one, and then memberships, there was minor increases to memberships. Humane Society, which we spoke about last night, we increased that budget to make sure that we got enough in there to cover it if by chance we have to start using that heavily and we can't come up with the alternative areas to take the animals. But we increased that by 25,000. You'll see a decrease in the city island monthly pass, parking passes for the co-responder, and that's mainly because other arrangements have been made for them. You'll see an increase of $15,000 for National Night Out. And then the bottom two are basically search software, and we're trying to add licenses in for those, and mainly for CID and some other stuff. All right, we spoke about the Humane Society and then the increases to that. Again, software, the reduction of $25,400 for that, and that's mainly because this is where we pulled Cody at and repositioned it to the other part of the budget. Supplies and increases, you'll see the increases right there. For subscription, IA Pro went up on us from $3,000 to $3,300, minor increase. We added Power Time to that. Power Time is our scheduling. So with the mainframe hopefully going away here soon, this was our scheduling system as well as subpoena system. It's hopefully covered by the JAG grant, but we have to make sure there's money budgeted in there in case it doesn't get picked up by the JAG grant. Offices, thermal paper increased by almost $1,000. We had an additional $10,000 for CSD events, Hoop It Up, Major Prep barbecues, things of that nature. We added another almost $2,000 for CSD promo and handout increases, and then we added a line in there of $5,000 for major crime scene, food, water for officers or whatever we needed to do while we were out there. Personal safety, you'll see an increase on that. The less lethal munitions went up by about $600. We want to purchase what's called battle boards. Basically what they are is what the fire department uses to track where your personnel are at a major scene. So we'd like to purchase at least 2 of those, and then we want to replace ballistic helmets for the warrant service unit at $3,000. The increase to the wearing apparel was for an increase in honor guard uniforms from $2,000 to $4,000. The vehicle parts and supplies, the modems, with just the annual increase, and then we were able to secure a truck a couple years ago off what's called a 1033 program or the federal surplus, and then we would need some work done to it, which we're going to try to do in-house through VMC, and that $5,000 would go for the work for VMC to do that. Budget line, with office equipment, we increased this budget line. You'll see a reason why we increased it. The increase was for the purchase of additional chairs for the forensics. In addition to, we want to start replacing bicycles. We got donations for bicycles earlier in the year, and we want to try to start replacing some of those. Cubicles for the record center, $4,000, and then 5 workstations, and lockers for the street crimes unit of $23,000. All right, if you see at the bottom, that's currently what our street crimes unit office space looks like. We were proposing to $15,000 for a general contractor to come in and remodel that. That, and I'm not sure if you remember, but that used to be a night court when we had our communication center here, or the booking side of that. That was, that's no longer housed here, the street crimes unit's back there, but we'd like to remodel that space. And the 15,000, we may be able to save that because we may be able to get Dave Baker and crew to actually come in and do the work for us. But we wanted to make sure that we had something in there to cover that. You had asked about the vehicle equipment. There's the vehicle purchases for 2025, or proposed for 2025. Police SUVs, we'd like to buy 2 of those. The K-9 trucks, current K-9 trucks are 2017 Dodge Rams. They're past their life expectancy, and we're hoping to replace one of them a year for the next couple years until they're all replaced. We'd like to purchase. We have a trailer that the current Dodge truck doesn't pull due to the motor size. Due to the current motor size, we would be looking to replace that truck. And then the animal control vehicle, the one we would be replacing is a 2008 Ford F-150, and again, it's well past its life expectancy. You had asked about the increase to the budget from this year to next year. And I'll give you overall, 2021, we had $333,604 assigned to that budget. 2022 was $264,000 and change. 2023 was $301. And then last year, that budget number was cut prior to coming in by the current business administrator at that point. So, which allowed us to only purchase 3 vehicles at that time. Other capital expenses, we're looking to buy 2 drones, and this will be a joint purchase with the fire department. You'll see some of the examples of why we want those drones. I think if you spoke with Chief Enterline and those guys last night, they had the drone up at the fire scenes. So, I mean, they become valuable assets for various reasons. Evidence shelving, we'd like to, the evidence room was moved from the basement to the first floor, or is in the process of being moved. We need to, and I'll show you on the next screen here in a minute, is we need to replace those shelves. If you see what it looks like, so we need to replace those shelves, which are in the process between last year and this year. So, all right, it was a total of 100,000. We decreased it by 25,000 from 24 to 25. So, all right, the next couple slides basically are just comparisons you'll see in the different budget sets between 24 and the proposed 25. You'll see where the increases and decreases are. You'll see the overall for this one for fringe, pay and fringe benefits is down 1.4 million. Next slide. Communication subtotals, you'll see that it went up 11,008, and we spoke about all those different subsets in there. Professional services, the arbitration services, I didn't increase, but we don't set that one. You'll see that there was a slight increase for the psychological and medical. Next slide. A lot of those on that screen are set by the city, not by the police department, but we spoke about all those as well. All right, we covered those as well. All right, next slide. All right, we spoke about the capital outlay as well. So, again, I gave it to you. You got the PowerPoint.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
With the maintenance and repairs, that 15,520 and 26 cents, would that be exactly for the storage?
Which one?
I mean, right here on maintenance and repair, utilities and maintenance and repairs. The increase, you have the maintenance contract for the Fed. That's what you were holding to the side that you said you may be able to do.
Yes.
Yes, that's that line, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The grants, we currently have 4 grants. And just to give you a brief update, the VIP grant, we initially got our funding, $500,000, which covers the GVI strategy. That grant was extended through June of 2025. Dauphin County earlier this year received a VIP grant for 3 years to enhance the GVI strategy. We're a pass-through recipient of that. We got approximately $480,000 in funding, and that covers salaries for project manager, support and outreach coordinator, credible message training, which is happening tomorrow. Gang Scope Software, GVI consultant. And so far, Adrian has been able to get reimbursement to the city of approximately $280,000. And I spoke about her earlier. She's one of those 7 people that were looking to push her salary up. She's paid for herself with the reimbursement of the money that she's coming back on the grants.
Would that be, I'll ask what position that is.
So that would be the crime analyst for the commissioner's office.
There's 2, that was 2 proposing that, right?
There's 2 crime analysts, yeah, but I mean, she's in, and I talked about her as the grant person or taking over the grant for the city. So the money you see that's being reimbursed to the city through these grants, she's the one that's actually, Rebecca's busy. And I mean, for us to get priority in what we're doing, this is how we decided to, I don't want to say go around it, because Rebecca's involved in it, but this is how we decided to conquer that problem in order to get us to move forward with these grants. So, local law enforcement grant support, basically you see what that is. That's funding for the retention bonuses for officers, absence custodian salary, technology improvements. This one again was extended through 2025. This one we received, we were able to start purchasing stuff with a grant earlier this year, even though it's about 1.5 years into it. So again, this is the stuff that we had to backtrack on in order to try to get moving so that we could do these things. You see what it covers, and again, it's approximately $290,000 that's come back. We're looking, and we were talking about some of the cameras and stuff like that. The reallocation of money into here is where we would be looking probably between the LLES and the GVIP, is to move money around in order to purchase those cameras and stuff like that. So we're already working that.
Which cameras?
Well, the
public.
CCTV, sorry, CCTV cameras and the license plate readers. So we're in the process of reworking that to get that additional equipment we need. Next slide. The GVI, Gun Violence and Investigation Prosecution. You see the amount that we were awarded again in 2023. This here covers the overtime for saturation details, porch lights, doorbell cameras with installation, and then Cellbrite. Right now, we're in the process of trying to find a contractor to install the lighting within budget. We put it out for bid twice. We can't find somebody to keep it within budget. We just had a meeting on Friday with several contractors, so hopefully we can get to a budget that works with the grant. We already have the doorbell cameras and porch lights and light bulbs, so we're ready to move forward with that. We just need the contractor in order to proceed, which we're hoping by February, by first or second quarter, we can move forward with that project and get those out into the community.
How many homes will that cover?
It's 135 for the cameras, and I think we got close to 200 fixtures and light bulbs. All right, last one on that screen would have been the JAG grant. So that we're a pass-through recipient on this. We got $52,346 for funding, and that covered 50% of the victim witness, the salary contribution, NIBRS, Crime Watch, Power Time, Planet, and then one COBRA license. Operational highlights, I spoke about the GVI, that we started moving with that stuff. I spoke about the LLES, which we were able to purchase a backup one. With the GVIP, we were able to get Cellbrite. We were able to buy the stuff for porch lights and doorbell cameras. And then we got the funding extended through the end of 2025. With the LLES, again, we were able to buy a Faro, retention bonuses, and then we were able to throw in some saturation details and some other stuff. So those 2 grants, getting them moving has helped. So that's an operational highlight. We started 2 committees. We have an officer wellness committee, which basically is peer-to-peer counseling. So there's officers that we have in these groups. We have a major incident or something, or if they need additional assistance, we're able to go to this core group of people, and they're able to address some of those needs, or at least try to get them pointed in the right direction. They deal with anything from mental health to financial to you name it. So we're in the process of bringing that up. Recruiting committee, we started that to try to get more candidates. And again, what I included into your packet was obviously your poker chip. If you know somebody's looking for a job, obviously we're hard. I gave you, again, the postcard on the backside of the postcard that tells you how to be a police officer. And again, each one of them has the QR code, and they can call me directly. I'll be more than happy to talk to any of them.
Is there any room for the registration fee to be waived, because that can be
We've done
an issue
that, yes.
sometimes?
Yeah, we've done that. So, I mean, we've done it. So it's usually somebody that has taken a test and not successfully completed, we waive those fees to try to get them back out in the door. And then if somebody's got some sort of hardship, all they gotta do is let us know. We can waive those. So, yeah, it's not a problem. We need bodies. We need qualified bodies. So, again, back to our operational highlights, we reestablished the mountain bike unit. And I could go into great length in a lot of this. I'm trying to save you some time. But we were able to get, it was 3 bikes, right? So it was 3 bikes that we got off grant. We refurbished a couple of the older ones, and then we got some additional operators trained. They come in very handy bicycles, mountain bikes. So, yeah, we were able to get them retrained. They come handy for the election details and the riverfront details and some of the other details we run. They're able to get those around. So it's becoming pretty good detail. Nice to see the bikes back out rolling around. Crime Watch, we were able to move that forward to now we got public facing side can now see crime mapping through Crime Watch. That's all live. The GBI team. And we spoke about that a couple times, but they did some site-to-site visits, Miami-Dade, and then down in York, and then we started the one-stops, and then we're starting to move towards, they're actually in the schools, so, I mean, we're starting to move, gain some traction with that program. And then the CSA program, and I think that Captain Winder has actually gave you a handout for that one. They did a lot of events in the course of 2024. I can certainly read those for you if you'd like me to. There's a lot of them, from community barbecues to you name it. They were directing traffic. They were in the schools. I think they got now established to the point where when they got issues or problems, someone calls them directly to try to get some sort of resolution to whatever they may be doing. So they've become a valuable part of what we're doing, and it's actually helped us. Next slide would be our 2024 goals. Our 2024 goals you see listed on the screen. Some of those goals we were successful on, others not so much. The recruit and retain. The recruiting, we're able to get a couple in at a time. The retention part is where we don't have any luck. And I'll tell you, I mentioned those eight people that had left with under 5 years experience. We hired 2 in January and put them through the academy. They graduated in July. By August, they had already been picked up and moved on to another department. So that's how rapidly people are moving through here.
I was gonna say, my apologies. Before you and Commissioner Carter head out, we have a resident here that wanted to address number 6. If you had a minute, we could speak in the hallway perhaps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Currently, we have 4 in the academy, so they're set to graduate later this month, and then we opened up, we'll send 3, and this is the recruiting side, we'll send 3 to the academy which in January, which I spoke about. Recruitment efforts are ongoing. So I think we succeeded at least in half of that right now. Cease operation of the utilization of the Metro system. We've done everything we could possibly do on the bureau side. We've moved all reports. The only thing we have left to do would be to move the payroll side out. So I'd say that we were successful in that one. The increased, provide increased police information to citizens. The second quarter of this year, we went live with the crime mapping feature. So that's out there on Crime Watch, the remodel of the police lobby. Hopefully that'll be done by the second quarter of 2025. Maintain a homicide clearance rate. 2022 national average was 52%. So far this year, we're at 68%, which is 15 out of 22, which leads me into the next one, reduce gun violence. I don't think we did so well this year. And we'll continue to work on that. Above the 22 homicides that we have, 17 involve firearms. So, and if we can work on increasing technology such as the cameras, LPRs, and the GVI strategy, I think that's going to help us get to where we need to go with that. And then the integration of the CSAs into the city. And again, I mean, I gave you a list. I can certainly read it, but for time's sake, I'm going to not go through the lengthy part of that. The CSAs have handled 1,137 calls as of December 4th. And that's calls ranging from, you name it, that they were on. So you see our 2025 goals. What we intend on doing, obviously a lot of these look similar, but we're going to meet and we're going to develop a 5-year strategic plan, which will have the metrics to it. And then actually we're going to end up publishing that. We're also going to do that with the GVI strategy so that you would have a document, or we would have a document with the metrics to see if we achieve that or not. So that's what's coming up in 2025, but you see our 2025 goals that we have. As far as the questions go, all right, I think that in budget set 1, or budget questions 1, the significant budget increases, I explained that through the slides, through the various slides. Departmental diversity, we covered all that. Slide 4 and 5. Vacancies was covered on the PowerPoint presentation. We covered the grant update and special projects. ARPA projects, we don't have anything specifically ARPA funded, although the PCCD grants for LLES and GVI are funded through ARPA funds. So new positions, we covered that. The anticipated impact of the support and outreach coordinator, shifting this position to a full-time will enhance the Bureau to expand the GVI strategy by enhancing collaboration between the project manager, credible messengers, local partners. This position is primarily responsible for establishing, nurturing, maintaining partnership with agencies that can assist in redirecting and supporting positive behaviors. And I've also included a job description for you for that one. Does the 2025 budget align with 2024? If you take a look at it, the current budget shows increases in several smart projects, inflation, and annual increases by vendors. Current year-to-date totals reflected approximately 60% of the budget is expended so far. What this does not account for is invoices that have not cleared, and there are budget lines in there that were added to cover things we received through grants. Several of these budget lines are not set by the Bureau and are showing either low or high percentages of budget amount used thus far. Additionally, several purchases were budgeted for 2024, which were not made due to extremely high cost. They were put off till 2025, depending on the pricing. We'll take a look at it at that. We try to be mindful of what we're doing when it comes to spending money. And then we're able to reuse some existing items in order to continue to decrease spending. Some of the biggest areas that we had increases in budgets would be for the community-related events, National Night Out, and some other events that we budgeted in there. Roles exceeding 2%, covered that. The departmental highlights, we had those up there. Bear with me while I get to the next one. Performance metrics, So we talked about that, again, with the goals for 2024 and then 2025. For the police department on budget set one specifically, we talked about the vehicle purchases, which I showed you where the 4 or the 5 vehicles we're looking to replace. Again, I gave you the budget between 21 and 24 and 5. Mr. McCutcheon was kind enough to give us the explanation for the police pension. So that would have been all budget 1 set questions, and then budget 2 set. You asked about the complement for the police department. There's 79 police officers, 10 corporals, 11 sergeants, 3 lieutenants, 4 forensics investigators, 17 detectives, 4 captains, 1 deputy chief, and a commissioner, which was covered on slide 5. We covered the bilingual community services aid program being evaluated. Yes, every program we have is evaluated. It could be every person, unit, platoon, division, evaluated several times a year, and usually after incidents for better performance of personnel, task, duty, in an effort to increase productivity. This happens regular and informal basis after events, after action reviews. Goals for the CSAs, which I listed there. Again, I mean, I can go back through those if you would like. They covered a lot, and it's, I mean, it's if you look at what they've done over the course of this year. Yeah.
Well,
Synopsis.
What I gave you guys is what you asked me for last night when you said that it would be helpful to see some of the things that they do. And I was like, okay, I got you. So I brought that down for all of you. And what it is just a snapshot on multiple different things that they handle throughout the year, that they actually deal with each and every day throughout the course of a month, 365 days out of the year. But I took you, what I wanted to show you, I took you from January all the way up until today, just to give you a snapshot of all these things. And there's just something, it's a snapshot of everything in there, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So you start to get a grasp as to what they're doing for this community and how they're interacting and what their roles actually are.
So you see a list of events that they attended. The goals for 2025 for the CSAs, continue to broaden the reach of the CSAs to all aspects. This includes adding 2 CSAs to the GVI credible messengers, continue to build stronger partnerships, relations with HSD, the school district, getting the CSAs sponsored mentorship program up, implemented in the school district, having the CSAs continue fostering relationships with the community, identifying partners and strategies. We took care of hiring a new community relations director, which will bring her down once she gets her wheels up underneath her, so to speak. She gets in the door and she gets acclimated so that you can see who she is. Continuing CSA-sponsored community barbecue events, basketball, flag football, fishing trips, partnership with Parks and Recs, engagements with church, nonprofit organizations, provide excellent resources to citizens. We talked about the filling of the parking enforcement 1 vacancy, and then as well as the 10 police officer trainee positions. That's all that I have. I'm open to any questions. And sorry I was so long-winded.
No worries. Thank you for the thorough presentation and for making sure you answered all the questions that we did ask beforehand and getting them to us in writing as well as a PowerPoint. It's appreciated because it's easier for us to follow along when we have those options. At the moment, I don't have any questions. I'm going to send it back to our Public Safety Chair with Councilman Jones.
Thank you. Again, thank you for the presentation. It was another thorough one. However, the question that I forgot to submit to you as I'm looking at this, right, and I'm not trying to stump you, but I do want to give an explanation for our listeners or viewers and everything, but when we look at these positions and the proposed civilian management increases, when we're talking about the 4%, these weren't included in the 4%. This is the 2% increases, am I correct? You got it up? Oh, it should be, I can't tell you which slide it is. Yeah, right here. Yep.
All right, so, yes, they were not included in the 4%,
Okay, so,
only the 2%.
only thing that I see that's missing is like what their, can I say, I don't want to say starting salary. Yeah, the base. And 2024 salary. And the reason why I ask again, because, you know, when I looked up accreditation manager, it's about $45K per year
Where'd you look it up at?
online
Yeah, but I know.
for
What-
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but what website did you use?
And just kind of to answer your questions, I did go through, and all of the positions are about $13,000 increase, except for the confidential secretary, which I believe was about $4,000 increase.
And it's just a Google search, like government salaries.
Okay.
And it just shows that like 45, but, and again, the only reason why I'm asking, because all of these other proposed increases are the same amount of money for 70, you know?
Right.
So somebody's position is,
I will tell you that those proposed salary increases are less than one police officer salary, so across the board. And if I looked at their jobs and what they're currently doing as compared to what they were hired to do, so if I look at the accreditation manager and I go, okay, so they take care of all the accreditation, they do the research, they make sure we got policy, they make sure we're covered with everything, and look at how that job has blossomed into what they're currently doing, those jobs could very easily be 2 and 3 positions that we would have to cover in the budget in order to fill those. If we're looking at 2 and 3 positions at even a $50,000 or a $40,000 pay rate, you're still saving money by the $70,000 as opposed to the $80,000 to $100,000 that you would be spending on that. And that's sort of kind of what we looked at is the additional job duties that were laid into or placed into that position. Again, I mean, the accreditation manager, she's a liaison with IT, so we got IT-related issues, she's dealing with that. If the RMS manager, who's been out for a while, she's dealing with that in addition to accreditation. She's managing NIRVIS UCR stuff, which actually saves us money. If I go down to the court liaison special events coordinator, she's again doing multiple jobs. She's a notary, which saves us money on that. She's also, in addition to her normal job, I mean, I could go on.
so basically, that's all I was trying to get to,
Yeah.
to come out.
Okay.
The reasoning for the increase in
Yeah.
some of the roles that they may be playing that can fill other holes, you know, within the department. I know some people are quadruple tasking.
So, and that's exactly right. That's what they're doing. And what they do, and I can tell you that 2 of those positions on that list right there were previously occupied by police officers. So what these spots do is allow us to keep the police on the street. So, and again, I mean, as we get these different jobs that we need accomplished, recruiting, we go through grants. I mean, someone has to do that, and it's either going to be a police officer or civilian. That group there has actually, or those positions have actually assumed those duties. And I mean, you're looking at each one of those having 2 and 3 different jobs in them. And again, that's where you're getting a cost-saving measure, because we don't have to add those into the budget as additional positions, which again, create those additional salaries.
It's all connected.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Excuse me. My other questions were answered. I asked them pretty early on. Why has the department stopped supporting the school district? You explained that, and also the 4% raises. So I will pass it back to Vice President Green.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. One of the things I did not see in this budget was any line item for Chapel. Is he still involved at all?
The chaplain?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's already taken care of, that's already,
It's in there, yes.
Okay.
And it's also grant funded, so we get that reimbursed as well.
okay.
So-
And then I understand how Ms. Vollmer may be a bit overworked working on grants. I just if there's some way we could work out getting her more assistance, this way we could free up some of you guys' assistants and other director heads' assistants, because doubling the work sometimes just seems a bit redundant. And any way we could just, get the taxpaying citizens more for their buck, that would be, pie in the sky. Then also, you had alluded to the 5-year minimum for the training. Did we come up, because if you get, we got some of the best training in the area.
By far.
Carter can tell you that. And they kind of nitpick. They can't wait for you guys to come out of the whole department and just nitpick them and take them other places. But that comes to a cost with the city, so if they leave before the 5-year requirement, we're just out of those funds. Did we develop a mechanism at all where we can go after those funds? This way we could recoup at all?
There
We
is,
can let the law bureau answer that.
Yeah, there currently is, through, I think it's MOPEC, where if they leave before, then we can apply for reimbursement for, I believe, a portion of the money that they would have owed before the cost of the training. So that is something that we will start to do more as I wasn't aware that there was that many, but we will start to
I
look
could
into
imagine
that
that would
reimbursement. Yes.
accumulate some substantial
Yes.
money for the city, so yeah, absolutely. And then the current department situation, Commissioner Carter, how do you feel your crew is working with the new renovations and having like the bell? Because I remember one time I came down and it was just hard getting someone to respond when I came down with a resident. Is everything moving along a bit easier now as things have transitioned while renovations are taking place?
Yes, we looked at things, you pointed out things to us, and so we corrected those errors, and so now, we're taking care of what we need to be taken care of.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Rawls?
Thank you, Vice President Green. Thank you for being here tonight. My questions were answered through the presentation. Also, I was wondering why the raise had been so high. What kind of metrics or reasoning was behind it? You just explained it, so thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. President Bowers?
Thank you. I have 2 questions related to the CSAs, and then 1 question related to the pay raise justification information that was shared. So I'll start with the CSAs. I see a long list of events and community activities, but do we have a total number of events that the CSAs participated in for the 2024 year?
I can get you that number. I was giving you like the play-by-play of everything that they were doing, and there was a few additional things that was left off the list that's kind of city-sponsored and whatnot that they were doing, but if you want to know the complete number, I can get that to you.
Yes, I'm just curious. And then it was mentioned that 2 additional CSAs would become credible messengers, or can you explain that or clarify?
Yes, ma'am. It's not 2 additional CSAs. Out of the 7 CSAs that I have, 2 of them that we have identified as being excellent, credible messengers for the GVI, who I personally talked to, said yes. We will also assist the GVI team, and we will go to the credible messenger training. These are 2 individuals that have been out in the streets, in the community, talking to people anyway. Just, if it's nothing more than just an ear to listen to them and to offer up any sort of suggestions or opportunities. They've even gone as far as start making contacts to get them things that they need and sharing life experiences. So it's 2 existing CSAs that are going to be going through the credible messenger training that are a part of our GVI team.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
And then my question regarding the pay raise justifications, thank you for the information. I just want to make sure that it's not sort of like self-reporting or self-identifying of what these individuals are doing, because you provided a clear job description for the GVI support and outreach coordinator. Are there job descriptions, I guess, that have been updated to reflect some of these other duties that the employees have been taking on?
So, yes, over the course of time, those jobs have been updated, through the course of their job descriptions have been updated, and every year when we do the evaluations is when those job descriptions get updated. If we take the original one for each one of those positions, you'll see over the course of the time that those individuals have been here, from the accreditation manager down to the confidential secretary to the deputy chief. You'll see that job description expand as those additional duties come about, and we try to find a place for the work to get accomplished. So yes, those job duties have been updated. The only one I will tell you that's not been updated to reflect the current stuff, because we just over the course of this year, would be the crime analyst we now have her housed in the commissioner's office. That has not been updated because she's currently doing the grant stuff, and that started this year. So that will be updated as we go through this. And I'd probably be looking as a title change to it to make it something more compatible than a crime analyst, something that sort of kind of fits what she currently does.
Would you then be looking to replace and add a second crime analyst as well? Or
No.
just keep her in a different role?
She would be retitled. She would still have the duties as a crime analyst.
Okay.
And then it would incorporate the other stuff that she's doing, to make it more realistic as far as title goes. Because if you look at a title of crime analyst, you're thinking crime analyst, and you're not thinking grant manager, not thinking some of the other duties that she does. So to bring the title to better look at what she does, or better explain what she does, that's probably what we're looking to do with that.
Okay. Well, if you could please share the updated formal job descriptions for all of the employees,
Okay.
that will potentially receive an increase. I'm not sure how that will go. But the assistant to the commissioner, the police substation manager, the accreditation manager, the court liaison, the special events coordinator, both of the crime analysts, the confidential secretary to the deputy chief.
All right, I will send those to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you, Vice President Green. Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the thorough report. I just have two quick questions. Are there any new incentives for retention, or could there be some type of contractual commitment for the new officers?
So the best thing that we have at this point, because they're currently under contract, the best thing that we were able to do this year is retention bonuses, and you see how that worked. So next year is a contract year, so we've been in talks, or I'm sorry? CBA?
Yeah, collective
Oh,
bargaining.
yeah, sorry. Acronyms, right? All right, but no, I mean, that's where we'll get into those contract negotiations with the FOP. There's ideas passed around. I mean, we're trying to do what we can to work within the current contract, that we can accommodate some of this stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Certainly.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels? Thank you. I do have, I guess, one or two questions here, not too much for you. The first is about the crossing guards. Was this a decision that the city made not to renew the crossing guard contract, or was it more of a school district, or it just kind of fell through the cracks?
It was more of the school district. We took on a pilot program with the school district. And so then after, we trained them up and what have you, they said that they would take it over. But the superintendent left, and so he had the new guy holding the bag without talking to him, explaining that the program to him. But it was the school district's choice to pull out.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was on the record for residents who I'm sure will have some questions about it, because it was a big thing, and a lot of residents were really happy that they had the increase in crossing guards for kids on their way to school. It made them feel a lot more comfortable. I know it made me feel more comfortable. And then the second is more of a comment, not a question. As far as the CSAs, I definitely have seen them more this year, so I'm glad to see that. But I do remember when the program first started, They were not supposed to be police officers, and I know they're not police officers, but they're starting to look more and more like police officers. When you see them, like, they look like police officers. And so I think that's something that we might need to take a look at, to kind of tone that down a little bit.
We're already addressing that issue.
yeah.
We're
Alright.
trying to change their uniforms, because that was one of the things that, and I scratch my head to this day as to why that come out the way it was. But we're changing their uniforms over so they look less like us, and have their own look to them.
Okay, I'm definitely glad to hear that, because every time I see them, I'm like, I know you're not a police officer, but if I didn't know, I wouldn't know. So I'm glad to hear that, because it also could be a safety issue, because they are not trained for those situations. And if someone who is committing a crime sees them, they might react as if they are a police officer. So I'm glad to hear that.
So we actually did change their uniforms. We're just waiting for the rest of them to come in. So if you were to see Mr. Khan, he has his full uniform on. So that is the new look if you ever see him out and about. Mr. Khan.
If you could send us a photo, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see him out in the community at a ribbon cutting ceremony, and the first thing I looked to see if they had a gun, because the uniform looked just like your uniform.
I know.
So
That was one of the
that's
things
good.
that we had, actually, when I was a captain, we had started talking about, and sort of, it's got to go a different direction, because you're absolutely right. It becomes a safety issue for them, and it sort of kind of helps with the community on the other side.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments for the Bureau of Police regarding their budget or anything since they're here? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. Thank you for the work that you do in our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Councilman.
Oh, wait a minute, you forgot your social security number.
19.
I'm going to ask for a brief 7-minute recess just to use the restroom, and then we will reconvene with the Bureau of Codes. to officially end our recess and come back to our budget hearing. We will resume with the Bureau of Codes. If you would take the time to introduce yourself, give us an overview of your department, your presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Good evening, City Council. Ann Montgomery, Code Administrator. The department overview is the same slide that I would send for the quarterly meetings that we used to have. They're responsible for enforcing building, construction, electrical standards, plumbing, health, sanitation, and property maintenance codes for both residential and commercial structures. Performs plan reviews on all construction projects and process for all buyers notification and flood zone applications. Processes all permits relating to building construction, electrical and plumbing work, and assisting zoning compliance. Issue licenses for electricians, plumbers, rooming houses, manage the residential rental registration and rooming house process. Interacts with the public daily, including complaints, property owners, and contractors. Building and plumbing inspectors perform progressive inspections enforcing building codes on new construction, rehabilitation, and alteration projects for both residential and commercial properties. All inspectors enforce code violations inside and outside of existing structures and vacant lots, including but not limited to high grass, snow, sanitation, plumbing, heating, electrical, vectors, and structural violations using the International Property Maintenance Code and amendments, enforcing non-compliance of these violations using citations processed through the District Justice Court process as needed. Health Office inspects food establishments, street vendors, dwellings, and commercial places for compliance with state laws, advises and trains food establishments, maintains database and food purveyors, interprets laboratory results, presents cases for the Commonwealth Courts, inspects for lead abatement, educates and promotes public health partners and healthcare providers. Significant budget changes. We have a total of an additional $10,000 on the whole budget. So the miscellaneous contracted services is something new. We want to fund warrants to be served when needed. For the supplies, educational, we added $4,000. This is to fund training, testing, and classes. Tools and hardware, we added $7,000. The purpose is to fund and handheld ticketing machines for the cars that are parked on lots. Then we lowered the office equipment to $5,000 less. Departmental diversity. We do have one newer employee who's not fully fluent in Spanish, but is working at the front counter and helps with the public, and it is a value to the public, you know, making them more comfortable to learn the process. We have one vacant code officer position. We'll start to interview in the first quarter of 2025. And we have another code officer position that, if approved, the new position of electrical inspector, that would be a code officer moving into that position. That would give another vacancy to the office. Grants and special projects, we have a brick grant out with FEMA that possibly could be approved and issued in 2025. The time frame has not been validated, but it would be for a maximum of $165,000, and this grant would be split with the fire department. The grant would be used for training. ARPA projects. The funding set aside for the demo bundle has been awarded, and demolitions will begin within a couple weeks or the beginning of 2025. The new position, as I had mentioned just earlier, is to hire electrical residential inspector. Right now, we have a lot of problematic issues. We do not inspect any electrical permits. That's all done by third party. They do a rough and a final. We are finding a lot of issues with the third-party electrical inspections. We'll come in to do other inspections, see that there's a final sticker on the panel as an example, but yet the electrical installation has not been completed. And this will give more safety to the city, and also the position itself will pay for itself. Because instead of hiring a third party, we would be doing those inspections. Year-to-date budgets minus the line changes. Previously, the current proposal for 2025 aligns with the spending totals with 2024. Roles exceeding 2% increases. So my position would increase by 5%. Reason is it's a fair comparison to other management positions in the city of Harrisburg. I have met and exceeded the goals of the department, demolitions, efficiency of work within the department, created bilingual forms for the public use, training of the code officers, additionally managed and maintained the oversight for all work stated below. For the deputy code administrator, there's an increase of 9%. He has more certifications than is required for his position, and he has met or exceeded the goals of the department. He has initiated a training manual. He comes in early every day, does more time than is needed. He updated checklist for progressive inspections that has brought in like over 50% more progressive inspections than what was being done before. He created a new employee training binder, and he is also on call after hours for emergencies. The data analyst is an increase by 8%. He leads critical projects, the new Munis system. Once that gets up and running, he'll be training the new code officers on that system. He has helped with IT and putting in information for Munis. And when the position was started, which was a year and a half ago, I had asked for $60,000 for that, and they had started the position at $55,000. It didn't increase in '24, and it would bring it to what it should be at $60,000. Those are the increases. Departmental highlights. There's 20 demolitions projected. It says 21 completed. Actually, 20 have been completed, and one was just started about a week. One will be started tomorrow, actually. I was hoping that would be completed, but with the holidays, that'll probably be completed in '25. There's 2 more pending. That's the process of CDBG, waiting for their approval to be able to start the other 2 demolitions. Training and promotion of code officers, supported changes to the union, requested for reduced timelines of certifications to enhance the productivity and meet the L&I requirements. In the past, it was 15 years that the code officers would be able to meet the requirements the way the grades were set up. This has been reduced from 15 years to 5 years. And with L&I, we are required to have so many certifications in comparison to how many permits that we are signing off on. We've updated every form, inspection criteria, and permit, created each in a bilingual format, and posted to the Harrisburg website for ease of use for the public. The International Property Maintenance Code has been updated from 2000 to 2018 and implemented new standards. Created background information for the Munis transition. Created and maintained a condemned property database that is used by at least 3 other departments in the city: police, fire, and then also Dauphin County uses that list. Departmental highlights for 2025. We hope to fill the electrical residential inspector if approved by City Council. We hope to complete 31 demolitions, fill the vacancy code officer positions, convert paper records to digital formats, converting to Munis in the 2nd or 3rd quarter, training and testing to get 80% of the code officers to Officer 2 level, implement the BRIC grant if awarded, and the completion of the ARPA demo bundle. Performance metrics. Demolitions each year, benchmarks are different based on the array of moving targets and our goals that are fluid from year to year. Public complaints, assessing totals are also fluid, but ensuring a high % of complaints are investigated, assessed, and brought to some level of conclusion is always the top priority. Some complaints take months to bring into compliance, and some take years. Code officer initiated complaints. We have code officers that will put in their own complaints, not just from the city public that we receive daily, but also the code officers, when they're out and about, they put down the violations that they see while they're out. Metrics in terms of volume can be pulled from the Harrisburg records. Database upkeep and adherence to internal SOPs for record keeping are the keys to this. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. Off the top of my head, I don't have any questions. I'm going to keep it consistent, start with Councilman Jones at the end here.
Thank you, Vice President Green. How you doing?
Hello. Okay.
So one of the things I will ask for an explanation for, not only just for myself, but also for public awareness. One of the things that you said that you will be doing, let me find the slide. Excuse me 1 second. Well, the question is this, about the warrants being served and issued. Can you expound on that a little bit and what that means?
So, yeah, we put $4,000 into that. So someone that lives far away, so they, that we can maybe hire somebody to serve that warrant for something that somebody has been avoiding and not taking care of the violations.
So is this, yeah, is this something outside of, because from my understanding, when codes writes a violation or whatnot, it's then sent to our DJs, and then if it's not handled there, are you saying something outside of what the district justice would do? I'm trying to understand
So-
when you say a warrant is served, usually, so it's kicked back from the district judges, the ruling's there, and it comes back to you.
So it'll go to a warrant if the person does not respond or doesn't show up for court, it'll go to a warrant. And so for us, if somebody lives far enough away, I mean, our own police officers
That's what I was
serve a
going
warrant, but we wouldn't ask them to go to Baltimore or to go to Maryland to do that.
And so it will cost, I'm not for, I know it wouldn't cost $4,000 per call, but what is the expense associated with reaching down to Maryland unless we're just, I mean, again, just effectively communicating with another municipality, or is there an actual fee attached to that?
Warrants are different state to state. Like, we can't just automatically do it, right? So we have to get a third party normally to serve it. And what third party is eligible depends on which state the property owner's in. But basically, this is for absentee landlords, right, who just neglect and avoid service. We have someone right now trying to have a hearing, want to appear remotely from the Virgin Islands.
Okay.
And those get delayed and delayed and delayed, right? And so I think this is sort of an experiment in how to expand getting some of these out-of-town landlords to get their actual attention, because they really do believe if you never get me, if the warrant hasn't been served, I don't have to appear. The court has no jurisdiction over
Got you.
me. Right.
So my question again, like, okay, there's a cost associated with that, but my question would be, do we have a metric that we're seeing? That have you used? I mean, how do we know we need 4,000? Do you have any documents to show how many people that you had to go outside and use some money like this for?
I actually don't. I don't have documentation. I'm not sure of what the cost will be. I thought it was a smaller amount to try to start with and see what happens with that.
So we've never, I don't want to say prosecuted.
So for years, there was no budget line item in codes to serve when they duck a warrant, even for local folks. And so when you see some of these recalcitrant folks, it's because they know they've not been served with that warrant. There's thousands of warrants sitting in the system. There's thousands of violations sitting in the system.
In codes, or are you just saying in general?
Codes.
Okay.
Thousands. And so, because people who really want to avoid are pretty good at it. So I think code is trying to put another tool in the toolbox, and will it work? I don't think we know. Right?
But this is new.
This is new, right? Okay. And so just getting a constable, if they go out locally, that's who serves those.
They cost money, I understand.
Right. But if they don't get them, it still costs money.
Absolutely.
Right? So they go, you pay them to go out there, and then, they're not, we've paid the money, and then it's still not served.
Mm-hmm. So my other question, just to ask you to expound on a little more for our residents, as you know, as you and I communicate from time to time, there's an influx of complaints about codes. We've talked about this before, even with the update from the IPMC, even with that update and it being implemented. You said in your report also that it will sometimes take months or up to years for anything to be done. So can you expound on that for our residents as well?
Yeah, say if it's a vacant property, so we cite who is the owner, but the person is not responding, so maybe the property gets sold or bought in a repository, so then you have to go over a new owner, but that citation or that complaint was never brought into compliance because nobody ever responded. And sometimes the repairs could take long enough. If somebody we condemn a property, it takes, permits and the process of rehabbing that building to ever bring that complaint out of, to bring that complaint into compliance. Mm-hmm. So it can take a year or more to rehab a building.
Right, I'm just saying again, I think you're explaining it, but just more so of like residents, there's someone maybe living next door, again, we'll use an example, I mean, these are some of the calls I've even given you, that there was a house that's even occupied, and they're not cutting their grass, and their trees, their overage is, remember the one picture that I showed you is just blocking the pathways, this is a clear violation. Also with some of the vehicles that's on the parcels, you know, I'm seeing this a lot more than usual. Now it's just like, hey, is that due to? I know you're not fully staffed with the enforcement officers, or I don't want it to be a lack of you not caring, and I know that's not the case. But can you expound on some of that? Why some of that is still hanging out there for our residents?
Yeah, it's sometimes it gets stuck in the DJ's office, you know, and sometimes the owner doesn't respond or doesn't have the ability to respond. There's a lot of reasons of why things may not come into compliance. Some people expect us to do it. You know, they see a vacant property, well, why doesn't codes fix it? Well, that's not what we do. We don't fix it, but we can write citations. We can try to find the owner. And doing the warrants is another, like Neil said, a tool for us to utilize to try to get somebody to be responsible when they're not being.
All right. Last thing. The goals for 2020-25. What I don't see is, again, strengthening those constituent services, making better contact when an email is sent or a phone call is placed, because some of those complaints are nobody's responding, nobody's replying. Do we have anything, or do you plan to have anything? Because obviously I don't see anything here, but do you plan to have anything to answer some of those calls? And again, is that due to, you know, you're not fully staffed in some of these areas to be able to answer every beck and call?
Yeah, so we lost a code officer, and when you lose somebody, those things do happen, you know. We don't have enough people just to take all the work that code officer was doing and then split it among everybody else that's already has enough workload. We do try to, you know, for the more serious ones that come about. I do think we can do better on the responding to the complainants, and yeah, we're having a meeting tomorrow, and I can talk about that on the importance of it, because
Yeah, just a response, just
when
that
I
they
talk
don't
to-
feel they're ignored, you know?
Right. And I have people that come in and say, why didn't codes do anything? And I look into the system and I see, oh, well, we did. We wrote 3 citations. You know, we sent out a notice. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, I didn't know that. So I think we can respond and let them know what we are doing. And it's much appreciated, you know, when we do talk to the public.
All right, thank you. No further questions. Vice President Green.
Thank you very much. Councilman Rodriguez?
No questions for me, thank you.
Councilwoman Rawls?
That wasn't on, thank you. Thank you for being here, Director Montgomery, and for your presentation. I just wanted to know the increases. I think it was a 8%, a 9% for the salaries. Sorry, I had this slide on my phone. Oh, yeah, I think it was the codes administrator, which is you, the deputy codes administrator, and the data analyst. I know you named some things and extra jobs that they did this year, but I just wanted to know if there was a job description, because I wanted to compare them.
I can get you a
Yeah,
job description.
please. If you could just email it, that's fine.
Sure.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. President Bowers?
Just one question, thank you. If you could please provide in the job descriptions that you'll be sharing, a job description for the electrical residential inspector as well, that would be helpful, thank you.
Sure.
Councilwoman Davis?
Thanks, Vice President Green. Good evening, Ms. Montgomery. Thank you for being here this evening. The first thing I want to do is to commend you on the, getting the website updated with the forms and everything, and having those, all that information be available in Spanish, the bilingual aspect of that, so that's really great. The other thing is, I wanted to know is the information as far as the citations that you send out, or warrants, well, not warrants, but, oh yeah, warrants or citations, is that information open to the public?
Citations, would that be public knowledge? So
It's part of a court system record, it's not really our record. Like, we file things with the court issues the citation and the warrant. So it's part of the judicial record, technically under actually the right to know law, because it's a judicial record, the request goes to them, not to us.
The right to know?
Under the right to know law,
request
because
goes to
a
them.
judicial record is not a municipal record.
Oh, okay. So, for example, if an elected official wanted that information, would they have to go through the right to know procedures as well?
An elected official of the city of Harrisburg would not have to go through the right to know.
Okay.
Maybe an elected official from another location would, but we could coordinate getting you information.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
Sure.
that also. And let's see here. I had one more question, but I don't. So thank you very much.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
No questions, just a comment. It would be helpful if your report had numbers so that we could compare year to year.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you. I forgot one more question. With the 20 demolitions that Codes did this year, was it 20?
There's been 20 completed.
20
yes.
completed. Are you able to give us, well, my colleagues may not want a copy to be able to see, but I would like a copy to see the properties that were actually demolished, the
Sure.
20 properties.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I do have one. I know earlier on this year, council, we had presented something about trying to create more home ownership in the city of Harrisburg through a program that we're looking into continue to build out, the NACA program. So with these scheduled 31 demos to be done in 2025, is there a way that we will be able to look at some of these properties before they just get totally knocked down, if they're savable or salvageable? Or I know you have grades on what can be done.
Yeah, so the grades are from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst. The only ones we take down are the number ones that are already collapsing.
Good to
and
know.
It's, in somebody's name, there's an owner for that. And once we take it down, there is a lien that's put on that parcel.
So there are mechanisms, and there's been a large group meeting and putting some of them back in place. They've really fallen away from COVID and afterwards. But there's a vacant property review board process that has to happen. The city doesn't own those properties, right?
Right.
We can't transfer them to anybody.
I wasn't saying that.
No, but I'm saying, well, but what can happen is if they're really neglected, and we don't, before they get to, they have to come down. If there's a process by which the notification goes over, which it could become public property through the vacant property review board, and then it transfers to the redevelopment authority, which adds it to its list of properties that someone can come in to acquire. And if it's done well, it's before those properties are now that neglected child that can never be repaired, right? If you get it early enough, as opposed to just a vacant lot. Part of our vacant lot problem is that the lot sizes at the time original houses were built are smaller than the requirements now for zoning on how big you can put a house on a piece of a building on a property. So all of them seem to be one-off problems. So getting them early as a structure that someone can rehabilitate still inside HRA would put it up there to actually then apply to HRA to acquire it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Montgomery. And I think that is going to be all of the departments we look over today. Next, we will open the floor to public comment. I will start to my right. The time limit is 4 minutes. Please state your name, the area in which you live in the city. And I will start to my right with anyone looking to give public comment. Please approach the microphone. This microphone here.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you.
Dennis Szymanczyk, talking about the subject that I brought up last month, that I didn't have enough time to finish my talk about it. I was wondering, since there's not going to be maybe a lot of people here to give public comment, can I have it like 8 minutes instead of 4 minutes?
Unfortunately, we have to keep it to 4 minutes just to keep it fair to everyone.
Okay. The last time I was here, I was told that Mr. Jones would get with me after the meeting. He said I left early because I didn't realize there was a meeting after that meeting. I had other plans to do. Okay, I couldn't stay, so I sent him a email that night. He got back to me that night and said he'll get back with me tomorrow, the next day. He never sent me any information at all, and so he never got back to me. I sent him up a follow-up, and he never answered that. I sent a very long email to Ms. Daniels, and it was blocked, so she could not get that. Ms. Daniels is a city council president, right? Who's Ms. Daniels? Oh, you're the Ms. Daniels, okay. So I was blocked, so you couldn't get my email, all right? I've sent over the past month and a half to 2 months, well, I know exactly how many there were, like 43 emails, made 32 copies of the paperwork. I've been to talking with Mr. Siders, the engineer. I met with him at this alley in the rear of 1100 block of Mulberry Street. And he said it's going to take a long time. Things don't happen overnight. However, of all the people that I sent emails to, I made some contact with some people, and I wasn't able to get any responses back. So the bottom line is, there's a serious parking problem in the 1100 block of Mulberry Street. Mulberry Street has all these brand new apartment complexes built there. The alley in behind the 1100 block of Mulberry hasn't been touched for 45 to 50 years. I moved at Sylvan Terrace in 1983. It was in worse condition than it is, well, it's in worse condition now than it was then, but it was in really bad shape. I've owned a lot of properties in that neighborhood. This neighborhood was also designated a municipal historic district. The 1100 block of Mulberry Street is a cornerstone for this neighborhood. The residents, when this neighborhood gets maybe better people to be affordable to live there, maybe the rents will go up and things can be a lot better. There won't be any parking available because the street is all filled up as it is right now. It was filled up at the time the McFarland building was in the planning stages, okay? And I was the only one at the city zoning board meeting to appeal to the organizational people there that we need a parking lot in the back of 1100 block of Mulberry Street. And at that time, they used to bring the trash back up that alley, and now they made us put the trash cans in the front of the properties on Mulberry Street. And
Thank you for your comment.
so I'm asking for some help. No one's giving me any help with this. No one's contacted me.
All right,
And I
your
appreciate it.
time's up, but you don't have to leave tonight because we don't have another meeting after this, and I can speak with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to the right for public comment? Seeing none. Anyone in the center that would like to give public comment?
My name is Hanifa Johnson. I live in the 1900 block of Market Street. I came here today to ask, it's a big ask of the city, but I feel as though it's one that is very necessary. Over the few years, I've worked in a few different fields, so I have a perspective most people don't have. I worked as a juvenile delinquent counselor. I worked as a caseworker for the state, for refugees, as well as local residents. And I worked as a social worker for Justice Works. I also coached track and field for the youth level as well as the high school level. And what I've noticed over time is that a lot of the resources are put into the redevelopment, if I want to use that word, instead of being proactive and giving the youth the necessary resources to be successful. I'm a living testament that sports can save a young man's life. I got a scholarship to go run track at Penn State. I was a state champion. I was a Division I All-American. I wouldn't have been able to do any of those things if there wasn't someone like, in the neighborhood, like Kirk Smallwood or Angel Doyle, which has a world record that can't be broken, but you wouldn't know that when you go to Harrisburg High. Needless to say, about 7 years ago, we all came together as a collective and we thought about a group called Harrisburg Youth Sports Association. But we couldn't seem to get the traction or the support and able to get it off the ground. Over this past year, I was the head coach of the Harrisburg Cougar Midget Football Smurf team. And what I noticed was we lost a lot of our kids to Susquehanna, SWAT era because it was free. And our program was looked at as dingy and ran down because we have old equipment and our uniforms don't look nice. And I also noticed that the registration fee was a certain amount that a lot of the parents couldn't pay. So it was real hard for them to allow their child to play a sport. And this goes on because the best kid on the team last year, he couldn't play this year. But if you ask him, why didn't you play? It's like he didn't want to, but the truth is his mom didn't have enough money. So when that kid can't play football, he doesn't have anything to do. And then when you don't have anything to do, you find something to do. And that something might not be positive all the time. So we have a few organizations. We came together. This is well thought out. We have a plan to execute it. So it's the Harrisburg Baby Cougars. Harrisburg. So we, the first ask, I'm coming to Harrisburg to ask, can we have support? You can't do anything if you don't have money. So we definitely, we need help. And it's a dire need for the children. And they need something to do, like I said, like they said, athletes, kids that are in high school, and they're athletes, they're more prone to be successful because of the things that, you learn as an athlete. Some companies often go after athletes to hire them. It's not the end-all, be-all. That's just not the only thing that we'd be focused on. We make it a requirement to, you pay $100, you get to play 2 sports. One of the other things is that the players have to attend 4 programs during the year. Parents have to volunteer.
Thank you for your comment.
Anyone else from the middle?
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Hughes, a resident, excuse me. I've been a resident for 53 years in the city of Harrisburg. I lost 3 sons to the city to gun violence with no answers. I've been fighting this by self ever since 9/13/14. From my oldest to my youngest. All killed on the streets of Harrisburg to gun violence. Excuse me. I'm working with the city councilman, Mr. Rodriguez, and Ms. Amber on beginning this process and hope I can get everyone's support. The city's failure to act on this and others instance like it. My stomach's in knots, y'all, excuse me. I spoke with the police, from the detectives to the chief of police, Corey Dickerson, to Commissioner Carter, to Chief Commissioner Kenneth Young, to Wanda Williams, Mayor. I have not received the help I should have as a resident. I've lost my 3 sons to these streets to gun violence. I would like to support a petition to have a small plaque in the areas of my son's deaths to leave as a reminder of how great of a young man they were. I want to hold HMAC accountable for the incident. They gave money under the table as hush money, but need to be accountable as well. I need answers from the mayor and the department, other departments. I ask as a mother for streets to be lightening, trees to be cut down, activities for our youth. They have nothing to offer our children out here. There's nothing to offer our children, and they fall victim to these horrible streets. More policing in high crime areas. Not go patrol the area for a hot second and then leave out the area. Policing means staying in the area. Policing the area. I'm just trying to figure out, police took an oath to preserve and protect our community. Who are they preserving and protecting? Their own? Because I have 3 sons dead to these streets. And I've been fighting for 10 years by self. The mayor, she got justice for her granddaughter. Commissioner Carter, he got justice for his nephew. Detective Duffin, retired, came back on the force and got justice for his brother. They're relatives. These are my children. Where's my justice? I've been doing this for myself for 10 years, and they all know it. I've been as far as victim, the crime delinquency building. I've been fighting since 9/13/14. Nobody's helping me. From them to the mayor, nobody's helping me.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hughes.
Can I get a few more seconds, please? Please. Because nobody's listening to me. Nobody's listening to me. This is all paperwork from the crime delinquency building. Paperwork from the mayor that she asked me to get and bring back to her so she can help me. And that was 2022, to save this last baby of mine. To save my last baby. He graduated He wasn't able to walk the stage. I had to do that. He was, okay, Sister Brown, please. Hold on a second. I want to do this right. This is all three of my sons. My son had opportunity. He was going to Central Penn. This baby boy, my last baby boy, he was on his way to Central Penn. He got accepted to play basketball, and he was taking up real estate. I had 6 kids. I have 3. Nobody died from natural causes. None of my kids. So now, all 3 of my sons graduated too. They all graduated. But this one wasn't here to do it. I had to do it. Nobody gave me, they still not giving me no answers. I have my phone from Detective Young, Commissioner Kenneth Young, Commissioner Carter, Detective Rudy, Detective Bickner. The only detective listening to me is Richard Akeem. The only detective that's helping me. Right now, for all 3, he was only assigned to one of my son's cases.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Appreciate you. But as a mother, what am I supposed to do now? I only have 3 sons. I had to bury my babies. What am I supposed to do? Nobody gave me no answer. Nobody gave me no answer. Yes. I've been waiting for 10 years. As a mother. 3 sons. I'm just trying to figure out who they policing.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Yes, ma'am.
I know your story. I know it all too well. I knew your middle son. We grew up together out the South. So I can't say I feel your pain because I couldn't imagine the level of pain that you feel. I will do what I can. I don't know how much I can do, but I will speak with the police department as well. I think I speak for all my council members here when we say we want to find justice for your sons as well as any victim in the city of Harrisburg that faces gun violence. So I appreciate you coming down here tonight and sharing it directly with us, and we'll see what we can do. I can't make any promises because I'm not a detective, but I will say that you have my support, and I believe you have all of our support, and our deepest condolences.
I appreciate that. And one more question that I forgot to ask y'all. As far as my son's memorials, how do we go about this now? Is we putting plaques up or something?
I know I think I responded to Amber's email, just saying about a petition. And then I believe it gets brought to our office, city council, and I'm not sure where it goes from there, but I do know that's part of the process to make sure there's support within the neighborhood.
Yeah, and then we also reached out to Friends of Midtown, so after the holidays, perhaps have a town hall, because there were some that were a bit iffy, so we want to alleviate all fears and frustrations in Midtown, and perhaps get the right signatures up to get that going. But we'll have further talks about that as well, Ms. Hughes.
Yeah, but I'm confused about it. It was a crime committed there. They can't just
No, I understand.
make it seem like it didn't exist.
I understand.
It did. It
And
happened.
coming to public comment is exactly how we started, and then we have the momentum we need to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and sharing. And if you wouldn't mind staying after, perhaps we can talk a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the middle section of public comment?
I just want to say my name is Amber Blaylock. I'm from the New Fox Ridge neighborhood where the murder of Azar occurred outside HMAC. I support putting a memorial plaque, and I want to do everything we can as a city to make sure there's not one plaque more. We, as residents, are tired of hearing gunshots and sirens outside our doors. We want to see justice done, this gun violence stopped, and I personally would like to see this addressed in a constructive fashion by, following community dialogue, by working more through the gun violence prevention initiative, by building more community centers, by honoring and centering the victims. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the center?
Hi, yes, my name is Jessica Tate, and I'm a resident of the community. I just think we need to do more for our youth as far as like providing things so they're not getting bored, going in the streets, killing each other, stuff like that. I lost 3 brothers to gun violence. That's my mom, Cheryl. I had to quit my job nursing because it's a mental thing, because I just don't know how this can just happen to one family. And I would like more to be done, because we have other kids that gotta grow up in this community, in this world. And I think if it's things placed in order for them to do that, could keep them busy, as far as after school program. When I was young, I was in the mix and stuff like that, but it was things for me to do to change my life around. Like it was stuff like Boys and Girls Club. It was Big Brother, Big Sisters. It was advocates in the school. It was a lot of things going on that ain't going on now today, where we're getting all these violence, all these crimes. Why? These kids is bored. They have nothing to do. I have a 20-year-old daughter. I have an 18-year-old. Well, he'll be 18, my son, and I'm battling with him with trying to be in the streets because he's bored. Kids get bored, so they find themselves running off doing things that they have no business because it's nothing for them to do. And I think the community need to put more money into things for these kids to have something to do, so our group could grow up and be productive and be something. Then putting all this money into like the officers, things like that. What is they doing to help our community? The crimes is going on every other day. People are out here killing each other every other day. What are we paying them for? It's just not making sense. They are here to protect and serve. We don't got no protection. People running down to them, letting them know. Like my mom, she tried to save her son. She went to them, letting them know, like, my son's being harassed, people shooting at my son. The mayor kept pushing my mom out the door. Now my brother's dead. Nani's dead. We asked for help, but the mayor had my mom. They made her go through all this stuff, go sit down, Mom, to get all this paperwork so they can relocate her. She was down there time after time after time again and couldn't get up out of here. Now my brother's dead because of the promises the city gave her and all this and that. Just imagine what other family they gonna give all these promises to when they running down there telling them, these boys is after my son, help me, help me, help me. My mom pleaded for help. She got none. Now my brother's gone. So we just need to do more in this community for our youth. We need to do more. We need to invest more money into them. We want them to have a future. These babies should not be dying out in the street. These moms should not bury these babies. We should bury our moms. It's the complete opposite. These kids ain't making it past 14. It's nothing for them to do. Nobody, the cops sees kids out in the street. They're not making them. Back then, we out in the street past street lights. Oh, they're picking us up, taking us to our residence. We gotta go in the home. It's curfews. It's nothing in place going on out here now today. It's like it's just saying, okay, do what y'all want. Kill each other. That's not right. That's not fair. Get these kids an opportunity. Get these babies an opportunity. We need to do more in our city. And anything I can do, because also, I was in a gang growing up. I was in Lady Soldiers. I lost the best friend to that. So I changed my whole life and everything around because of that. But,
Thank you for your comment.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the center? Anyone from the left? Seeing none, looks like it is 8:38 PM. Our call to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Right?